We begin with Delta State Polytechnic, Ogwashi-Uku, once a beacon of technical education in the South-South. It's now, unfortunately, the epicenter of a storm. The rector and several senior officials were recently suspended by the state's House of Assembly following explosive revelations of certificate racketeering and gross mismanagement.
This is a scandal many have decried as the erosion of merit and the weaponization of education for profit. At the center of this expose is one man, Martin White-Ufuah, a journalist who went undercover, infiltrated the system, and emerged with damning evidence. It purchased National Diploma certificate awarded with an upper credit. No classes attended, no exams written.
So this morning we ask who enabled this fraud, who benefited from it, and what does this mean for the thousands of students whose futures are actually now in question? We do have joining us for this conversation journalist and publisher Ecumenical Review, Martin White-Ufuah. Thank you for being here, Mr. Ufuah.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Let's quickly understand what the situation really is. Can you bring us up to speed on what it truly is?
But before Mr. Ufuah responds to a question, let's just play this package to give an overview of what we're discussing, and then we'll be back to you shortly.
Earlier this year, an investigative reporter alleged that certificate racketeering was happening in the Delta State Polytechnic, Ogwashi-Uku. These allegations, among others, caused division within the leadership of the institution, with the Governing Council and Management Board at loggerheads. The Governing Council Board recommended the suspension of the rector. The decision later overturned by the State Commissioner for Higher Education, as various panels of inquiry were set up to investigate the lingering issues and turn in their white papers. At a congress held at the main campus, the Academic Union of Polytechnics Ogwashi-Uku chapter declared a 2-week warning strike.
So we're asking government redeem the image of the school before it is completely damaged. And we're also asking the council, there are other internal mechanisms of handling issue. If I'm found wanting tomorrow, they can query me. If my responses to the queries are not enough, there are procedures on how to discipline me.
Students who have just resumed for the new session are urging the state government to step in and resolve the crisis.
Government should please call off this strike so that at least we can start up lectures, we can start up something. Time is not waiting on us.
The government, please come to the aid of lecturers so we can begin our lectures. We are just starting. Please.
We plead to the government to open the school for us so we can start lecture very soon. So let us catch up sharp.
An unexpected turn of events. The State House of Assembly on Thursday slammed a 6-month suspension on the rector and others.
The 6-month suspension of the rector by the council should be upheld by the visitor to allow for an unfettered, undisturbed, and unbiased investigation into alleged administrative misconduct and financial impropriety and breaches leveled against him by the council. That the deputy rector should act until the expiration of the 6 months. That the bursar should be placed on 6-month suspension, and the most senior chief accountant in the country should act until the expiration of the 6 months.
They say when 2 elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. In this case, the proverbial grass which are the students will be hoping that the fight would be resolved sooner than later to rescue their failing education. In Delta for News Central, Austin, Azu.
All right. I think that report package sheds more light into the current situation. So we'll go straight to our questions to find out what is really happening. So how did a state like Delta State Polytechnic, how did it move from being one that everyone wanted to go to, one that everybody wanted to attend, especially a center of learning, and then all of a sudden it is indeed faced with these challenges and situation. Can you hear us, Mr. White? Are you there?
Yes, I can hear.
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
So what really happened?
Okay.
Yes, go on.
Okay. In 2023, I decided to investigate based on stories around the certificate racketeering in the institution. So that was how I got myself into the school to investigate the facts. Then, you know how these things worked in institutions of higher learning? There's always a frontman for the syndicates. It happens that this Charles Induka, who is a staff with the library department in the school, was the frontman. So I got talking with him, and in the process, they let me know that he actually worked in concert with the registrar and some other people in the exams and records. Now, initially, he didn't know that he was being investigated. He thought I was serious about purchasing the certificate, because before I got to the school, I already deposed on things at the court that I was going to be investigating this school. So we got talking and then negotiated the price for the certificate, and eventually we negotiated to 235,000 naira, which I paid in 2 installments to him, and then he sent the certificate down to me. Now, because I knew that it is possible for him to forge the certificate, I decided I wanted to verify the certificate. So I sent a request with a dummy company to the office of the registrar through DHL. It was a return courier service. So the request was sent to the registrar's office. I was shocked when I got a response authenticating this certificate, a letter from the registrar's office authenticating this forged certificate as being from the school, and that the company, which is Alpha Marine, the government company that doesn't exist, should offer me the job, because that was the inquiry this company was trying to make from the school to know if the certificate is authentic. So that was what happened. Then parts of the investigation also showed students who came into the school with forged OND from other institutions. And there were correspondences between these Ogwashi-Uku and the schools where the student came from, ascertaining the fact that the certificate that they brought to the school is fake, that one of these students successfully not just completed her studies, but also went for service, NYSC. And her name was also smuggled into the graduating list, even when she was not in the original graduating list. A forged graduating list was published. So these are some of the findings. Also, part of the findings is how O-level certificates are being forged in the school. We were able to get some of these and then made them public. Some of them are also a subject of police investigation at the moment. So that's actually what has been happening.
This is really a damning account of all that what you've detailed so far. Very, very scary, to put it mildly. Have you been able to speak with the registrar? You're saying that the registrar authenticated the document. Did you speak with him? Is it that there was maybe a case of nonchalance on their part? Is there remotely any possibility that they didn't verify and just assumed it was the certificate? How many people are implicated in this scam?
Okay, let me explain that. The DHL was sent the letter for request for verification of the certificate was sent directly to the registrar's office. And then the response they got was also from the registrar's office. So if the process was hijacked, we have the explanation or explaining to give to the public that everything we got as a verification letter was from the registrar's office. So it wasn't sent to an individual in the school. It wasn't sent to any other department. It was sent to the registrar's office. And then the fact is that given the weight of these allegations, it shows that a lot of people are involved in this certificate racketeering within the institution. And these are the people that have been fighting tooth and nail to see how the police can get me arrested. They've even mobilized ASU, which was seen in the video clip, calling for my arrest. But none of such will happen because the evidence are so glaring. I've been invited by the government to government's house once, and then also the committee set up by the governing council of the school, also in Asaba. Both meetings held in Asaba. I tendered my evidence, which I also presented to the Post Criminal Investigation Department here in Abuja. So none of them have been able to refute this fact. All they've been trying to do was harassment, intimidation, and then having this purpose with the governing council, because the governing council have insisted that this issue must be investigated, because these are not things you just push aside.
Exactly.
So some of them, like the rector, the registrar, like for the registrar himself, he said he was not the one who wrote the verification letter. Then how come a letter addressed to your office and then it got a return DHL courier? How come somebody was able to hijack it, then took the same letter back to DHL to be delivered to me? So they have a lot that they've not been able to
absolutely
explain.
Yeah.
And defend as well.
Now, Mr.
So
White,
that's why the government took that decision to suspend them.
Now, Mr. White-Ufuah, you've gone through great personal risk and service to undercover to expose this criminal network. At great personal risk, I must say to yourself, and of course, the system will try to fight back. And from the latest information you're giving us is that, and from that report, is that the rector has been suspended for 6 months. Now, beyond suspensions and outrage, what tangible reforms should the state government and educational authorities implement to restore integrity that has been totally damaged of Delta State, of the Polytechnic in Ogwashi-Uku, transparency and trust in technical education? And also, what are some of the, because people might think, you know, Nigeria, they will say Nigeria is corrupt. After all, politicians are doing this. Can you give us tangible examples of implications of this if it's left, if it's not addressed, of this certificate scandal?
Okay, thank you so much. I will recommend that the individuals involved are prosecuted, for which the police in Abuja is even inviting them, and they've been absconding. They should be prosecuted. Then, secondly, the Polytechnic should revalidate all certificates since inspection of that school. All certificates should be revalidated. Then, thirdly, the security features in the school certificate should be worked on. And then also, we should have all students who had successfully passed through that school published on a website, so that all employers will know whoever brought or whoever is bringing a certificate from the school. They can just check it online. They don't need to write to the school, because sometimes this transition process of trying to get a response from the school or from the school is where the issue is. So these are the recommendations. The government should not just leave it as suspension. These people should be prosecuted for these crimes. They should be able to come to before the law to defend themselves. If the law finds them guiltless or that the allegations are not tangible enough, then the law should acquit them of it. But one thing I know is that they will not be able to defend themselves as being innocent. That is why they are running presently from the police. The First Criminal Investigation Department has been inviting the rector, the registrar, and the Charles Induka. Just to let you know, the Charles Induka is already before the court in Asaba on another certificate forgery in the school. It was temporarily detained in Ogwashi-Uku prisons. So it's before the court now, facing trial.
Okay. How do you think legitimate students and also alumni will feel? How are they coping with this reputational fallout that the Delta State Polytechnic has currently? And what does this mean, especially for some who may have passed through the four walls of that same polytechnic? Does this call to question some certificates that are circulating across the country now?
Well, let me be very fair to the school. The Delta State Polytechnic of Ogwashi-Uku is a very great institution. The issue now is just a few individuals who are trying to use the school for their pecuniary interest, who are selling certificates and ordering school certificates. It's not a new situation in that institution, but that's why I recommended that these caliber of people should be removed from the school. The school is a great institution. Now, for those who have passed through the school, one thing I want to say is that you have nothing to worry, and also the public shouldn't be demonizing of these students who genuinely went through that school. They shouldn't be. That's why those who are culpable, who are involved in this forgery and racketeering should be dealt with. And then the system is entirely cleansed from these bad heads. That's just what it should be.
All right, you spoke earlier saying that the certificates should be validated, those who have passed through this institution. How far back are we talking?
I didn't get that clearly.
You talked about the validation of certificates for those who already have passed through the institution as one of the ways to curb the damage that this has caused. But if we're going to explore that means, how far back are we looking at?
Okay, that's left for the school management and the government to do. To revalidate the certificate is to call for all those who have gone through the school to bring their certificate forward for the school to authenticate so that they can now publish them online. And so that any employer will be able to just go online and see who has a genuine certificate from the school. Revalidating it is the best thing the school can do now, especially with this kind of issue that is happening in the school. So it's for the current management of the school and the government to see to that.
Okay, in telling this story and going on the ground, was there any form of risk? No, I'm certain there was risk, but to what extent did you put yourself at risk to tell the story?
Okay, it was a very risky adventure, like every other undercover reporting. I've received threat messages and the rest of that, but I'm not bothered because the people who are threatening me are supposed to be the one who are running away from the law. Like I would always say, any man who is able to kill me, it means that man is stronger than me. So it's a very risky adventure. That's what I want to say.
Now, from what we've deduced so far and your investigation, I want to go back to the spirit of what led you to carry this out in the first place. And from what we've deduced so far is that there's a willing buyer and willing seller. What in this world will convince, would make an average Nigerian just wake up in the morning, okay, I'm not going to take O levels, I'm not even going to bother going to school, and I will purchase a fake polytechnic certificate? What's the pull factor, and how do they get away with this? Because how are you going to function in the labor market if you haven't studied accounting and you have a certificate, an H&D in accounting? Could you help us make sense of this?
Okay. What made me conduct this investigation was career exploration as a journalist, and also given the fact that there were stories making around that the school certificate is being forged by some individuals within the school, which my investigation at the end of the day was able to fill. So that was why I decided to investigate this school. So firstly, it was as part of career exploration as a journalist, even though the risk was enormous. So that was it.
Yeah, and the other part of my question is, why would any Nigerian feel they can buy a fake certificate and get away with it? Wouldn't it be obvious when they eventually get this job that they don't have the requisite skills to perform? Why do people do this? Why is there a market for this?
The reason there is a market for this is because of our emphasis on paper certificates. Now, if you go to, someone was telling me how PPRA decided to revalidate or to investigate the certificates that was presented by a member of staff of that institution. And it happened that when they went to these various institutions, they discovered that some of their staff didn't have authentic certificates. Now, why the market is there for forged certificates is because most of the times, just like the one I purchased in course of investigation, I wrote the office of the registrar and it was authenticated. So that goes to tell you that it's not just enough that they got the certificate. They also know how to hijack the process of revalidation of that certificate, especially when a company or an organization is trying to give a job to someone. They can also intimate this syndicate within the various institutions that these things are happening and talk to them. Please clear this later for me. It is coming. You want to give me a job. You can help me certify that I went to this school. Because the people who forge school certificate are also within the system. So they know their way around and those to talk to revalidate any letter of inquiry requesting to authenticate a given certificate. So that is why also the best our institutions can do is to have their certificate published online and then improve the security features of these certificates so that we can tell the difference between the fake and the real.
All right. Thank you for joining us and telling this very important story. It's a stain on our educational, image. We don't want to have that. Unfortunately, the students now have to bear the repercussion of this as they have to be out of school. And we hope that this is rectified sooner than later so that they can return to school and earn their certificate validly. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.